right, so now we're going to talk about images. Now, of course, you will want to add some images at one point, whether they come from a URL or maybe a local image inside your project. So first I'm going to do local, and I'm going to do it maybe on the app.js. And of course, we need to import the component, and we need an image. So first I'm going to bring the component, and the component calls image, just like this, image. All right, first, next, I'm going to need an image. So I'm going to pause the video, get an image from the web, and put it right here inside the source directory, inside the assets directory, inside the images directory. Of course, if you want to put it whatever you want, doesn't matter. All right, I'll be right back. All right, so I get my image called mountains, and again, it's just mountains. So this is a pretty large image, and we're going to see what happens with that. You know, it's a wide image. So, okay, so first, of course, I'm going to do local, so I need to import the image into this component. So I'm going to do import mountains. You could call it whatever you want. So from that /src, then the assets /images, and I believe it's called mountains. It's not giving me, you know, the reference. So I'm just going to copy the name. Let me just 1 second. All right, just gonna copy the whole name, go back to the component. I should be getting the you know, the reference to that. I don't know why I'm not getting, but that's okay. So what I want to do, I want to, of course, include this image component and pass the image, right? So I'm gonna go right here, and I'm just gonna comment out the picker and the activity indicator. I'm gonna make a reference to that component image, right? And of course, make it a self-closing tag. So the property where we can pass, you know, which image we want to load, it calls source. And source, of course, you can pass whatever is that you're importing at the top, and that will work. So let me bring the simulator, and if I reload it, you know, we kind of get the image. It is a little bit weird, and of course, it makes sense. Now, the image I'm including, it's like, I don't know, 2,000 pixels, a little bit more, you know, wide. So of course, what it's doing is just including the image with 2,000 pixels long, and that kind of makes sense. So of course, what you get with image is the ability to add styles, just like you would do with for web, you know, with any image for web. So I'm going to make a reference to styles, and I'm going to call it mountains. And of course, I'm going to just copy. I'm going to go all the way to the bottom and say comma, and add the styles for the mountains. So again, this one works just like a real image on web. So we can do a width of 100% and not make it 2,000 pixels. So this will adjust the size of the image just to the phone screen. And, you know, just for fun, I'm going to do a height of 300 pixels and maybe a margin top of, I don't know, 20. Actually, it's not pixels, it's units. But that's okay. I'm going to reload the application, and we get margin top, and of course, all right. So, you know, we couldn't get the image, and maybe you noticed this is the image, the original. Let me just bring the real one. So as you can see, this one, it's a little bit shorter. You know, we are kind of getting the pretty much the width of 100% and everything else, but you know, it looks a little bit different, and it's because this image, the size of the image is much bigger than the size of the phone. So it doesn't matter if you put 100 or 2000 or whatever. It's just going to grab the image and adjust the height until, you know, it matches the size. But some part of the image is going to go and overflow the screen. So of course, this could be a problem. If this is what you want to achieve, that is okay. But sometimes you just want to show the whole image. So again, this one works just like web. The thing is that we cannot add it on the styles. We have a special property for this. So I'm going to go to the documentation and just, you know, just find it. I'm going to go to components, to image, and it's a little bit slow. And this actually, it's not my connection. It's React Native. I'm pretty sure they are updating the docs. And if I type something, for example, image, I'm not getting anything. So this means that they are kind of doing it right now. So okay, so if we go to image at the bottom, we get all the props. So in the one we care right now is the resize mode. So if we go to resize mode, they give us different ways. So this one works just like the background position. You know, the cover, contain, stretch, or repeat. Right, really cool. So I'm gonna go at the top and say that I want a resize mode. And in this case, I don't know, I'm gonna do just contain instead of cover. And let's see what happens. I'm gonna reload it. And okay, so we get it. It's doing the resize contain. It's just containing the whole ratio of the image within this container. Of course, it's gonna fail because the size it's a little bit bigger than this one. But again, this works just like web. We could do cover, and we can get pretty much the same behavior than before. And it's because by default it's cover, right? Okay, so of course, you get other ways. You get the stretch or maybe the repeat. And again, I'm just not going to go through this because it's pretty much the same idea with web. So you get some other really cool properties, really useful for when you work for web. So you get the onload end, and then the onload start. So sometimes you need to load pretty big images. So you need a way to know when the loading its end. So maybe you have an activity indicator showing that the image is loading, and after the image gets loaded, you can of course remove the activity indicator and show your image. So again, these are just callback functions. I believe that at this point you can go through the documentation and just work it out, because most of the times it's just a property with a value, a boolean, or just running a callback function. Pretty simple. So alert, I'm going to say image loaded. Of course, since this is in our computer, it's going to be really fast, right? It's going to reload it, and whenever it's done, you get the image loaded. So you get, of course, the load end. This one is the load end. You get the load start. Let me go right here, the load start. Of course, when the image starts loading, you get the callback. Whenever you're unloading, you get the unload right here. Let me just show you. And again, it's just a callback function. Now there's a different thing with this. We are just rendering that image, showing that image, and this one it's on our working directory. Most of the times you just want to show an image that comes from a different place, maybe from an API, right? You've created your application, and all the data and all the images and everything else, you use a service for this, right? So of course you can go to that service and bring the information. So I'm going to go right here to the source. I'm going to remove this, and I'm just going to make a reference to HTTPS, just like this, then colon / / and I'm going to go to Pixum. So if you don't know Pixum, it's like a template. We can get default. We can get images. Just making. I'm just going to show you. Maybe you don't know it. If you know it, sorry, but Pixum lorem. So if you go to Pixum, of course, they're going to give you a link with the size and height, the width and the height of the photo, or maybe just the height. So if you just copy this and paste it on the web, you get access to these images. And of course, every time you reload it, you might be getting, a different image. If I go, I don't know, 300 and reload it, we get, a different image. So, it's just a very good way so we can get some kind of a image placeholder from the web, from a service, just to test. So I'm going to say, I don't know, 400 and then 400. Now, if I reload this and go back to the application, go right here, we get, kind of an error. It's not really an error, it's just a warning, and it says invalid prop source. The thing is that we cannot do this just like this. We need to pass an object with a property of URI. And inside we put the link of the photo. So if I reload it, we kind of get it. And notice that it took a little bit of time, and then we got the callback of load end. So this is when this callback gets really useful. All right, pretty cool. All right, so before we move forward to modals, we're going to talk about modals on the next section. I want to bring something else. I'm going to bring a different component related to images, of course, and I'm going to call it image background. So you could guess, why would we use this one? And this one is to add a background image to a component, or a section, or maybe a view. We can wrap a view or maybe some text with that background image, and of course it's going to give you a background image. So I'm going to go here, and the background image pretty much is going to use the same properties than the image. We still get a source, we still get a unload end, a resize mode, and everything else. So we get pretty much the same thing. I'm just going to copy, comment this out. So I'm going to go at the bottom and just close it. And I'm just going to add some text inside. So I'm going to say, hello guys. Doesn't matter right now. So I'm going to reload it. And of course, we get the background image with the hello guys. So again, you get the documentation for this. Let's go back and try to find it. So image background, there we go. Sorry, it's a little bit slow. So there you go. You get pretty much, whenever you go to the documentation and you get something like this image and then you get a link, it's because this component kind of inherit all the properties from the image component. And then you can do some more, the style, the image style, and image ref. But pretty much you're going to get all the properties from image. Notice I click it, it's taking us to the props of image. Right, so, you know, pretty cool. Okay, so what are we gonna do next? Well, we're gonna talk about modals. Sometimes modals are really useful, so we're gonna talk about that. So let's go to the next one and add modals, and it's gonna be the last component we're gonna learn before going to navigation. And make sure you have time and a little bit of I don't want to say brain left. You know, you have a little bit of energy to learn navigation. It's not that simple, but you know, it's not really hard, but it's not that simple. It's not simple as this, right? On navigation, it's where the real React native begins. So let's go to the next one, talk about modals, and begin with navigation.